we got to do, I do want to make a note of things we have done. And this is important, because when you go into a re-election, it's kind of important to know what you've done. We have made the greatest strides, pound per pound, dollar for dollar, in education in the history of the state of Washington. Now, that is not just idle political chatter. We have invested an additional $2.3 billion with a B into the education of our children. This is the largest increase investment in the history of the state of Washington. And it has helped the educational curriculum all the way through the spectrum, from 3-year-olds to graduate students. Every single one of those rungs, we've done something to help the education of our kids. So we have done a lot for education, and it's because we've had a governor who got into this because of education, and to his last breath will be working for education, okay? But we know we need to do more. The court has said we're several $billion short. We're relying on local levies too much. We need to replace that with state resources. Now, the reason I want to take back the Senate is that that place is now dominated by a party that when the court said we got to do more for education, you know what they did? They wrote a letter to the Supreme Court that said, drop dead. We're not going to help solve this problem. Well, that was not good enough for me, so I've been dragging and kicking and screaming to the table, and I finally got them to pass a bill this year that said we're going to address this issue in 2017. So this is a start. It is a commitment, and I'm going to work to make sure that they hew to that commitment to get this job done. And this is very, very important. So that's why I'm so committed to this next election cycle. And I'm confident we can do that because we know what we can do. We got to pay our teachers more so we can get good teachers in the classroom. We got to get them better training. We got to get more resources, not just for computers, which I'm dedicated to. I want to have more kids have coding experience, but also to the arts and music and drama. We want to have more vocational experiences for kids, because it's time for us to tell our kids, just because you don't go to a 4-year program doesn't mean you're a failure. If you're a technician or a welder or a nurse or a nurse's aide, these are successful careers, and we got to give these kids more vocational experiences. I'm committed to that. So I'm excited about going back there and working on the next steps of education. Now I want to mention 2 other things before I close, the big things we've done. When I started the job, one of the very first things I said is I was confident in our state. And I am confident in our state. 65,000 people are moving to the state of Washington every year because they know we got a good thing going here, right? The innovative economy. By the way, you know, the Republicans say Democrats just don't understand the economy. Guess what party the governor is of the #1 economy in the United States, according to Business Insider magazine? He's a Democrat. It's the state of Washington. Yeah. I'm proud to be part of the economic success of Washington. But when you are successful like that, you have to have a transportation system that can accommodate the growth that's coming to your state. So from day one, I've been saying we got to build our transportation system. We got to build light rail. We got to have more buses. We got to do more high-capacity lanes. We got to have some general-purpose lanes. We got to fix our bridges that are falling down. We got to have more bike lanes. We got to have more sidewalks. We got to build. And what I get for the Republicans for 2.5 years? Nothing but a stone wall. The Republican chair looked at me in the eyes for 2 years and said, "We're not going to do it." And I looked at him in the eyes and I said, "Yes, we are." And I said yes one more time, and he said no. So I'm proud to tell you now, in my governorship, we have passed not only the largest transportation package in the history of the state of Washington, but the greenest package in the history of the state of Washington. It's the highest percentage of bus and light rail and bike and ped as a percentage of the package. So we've got real progress. Now let me finish on something that is profoundly important to all of us, and that is our state, even though we have so much promise, it lives under an invisible cloud right now. And this invisible cloud is as dangerous as it is invisible. And this cloud is fundamentally changing our state in ways that are very dangerous. In the last 2 years, I've presided over the largest forest fires in the history of the state of Washington. Last year, an area the size of the state of Delaware burned in the state of Washington. And I know how devastating that is when you look at people who've lost their homes. We have had acidification of our water, which has forced the oyster industry to move some of their operations to areas that have less acidification. We have seen windstorms of unprecedented dimension that flatten a good part of Spokane. We have had threats to our irrigation supplies, which our agriculture industry depends upon, because of lack of snowpack. And even though we got tons of snow this year, it's all melting out so fast, we don't have it for the late part of the years when we need it. The forest product industry is seeing our forest being devastated by pine beetles that can survive over the winters now, because the winters are too warm to kill them during the winter. And that invisible cloud is, of course, carbon pollution, and carbon dioxide that is fundamentally threatening our state. So from day one, I have been determined that our state would use the powers of our creativity to respond to this threat. And I have been insistent upon that, and I have been creative to do this, and that's why I'm happy to tell you, last Tuesday, we rolled out, the Department of Ecology, the proposed rule that will give our grandchildren what they deserve. And that's a rule which will limit the amount of harmful carbon pollution emitted every year in the state of Washington by the largest polluters. And I'm proud of that achievement. I'm proud because nothing less is acceptable to our grandkids. By the time my grandson, who's 7, is my age, Puget Sound will be 100% more acidic than it was in pre-industrial times if we don't act. So this is an urgent need. On the same day we rolled out that rule, I was in California meeting with Governor Brown of California, Governor Brown of Oregon, and British Columbia to sign the Pacific Coast Collaborative that will create a Pacific Coast-wide alliance against carbon pollution, so we can work together to develop common measures. So I mention this because we're moving, we're doing big things, and but there's more to do. This rule is not the end-all, be-all. There's a lot more we got to do. We got to keep financing my clean energy research facility at the University of Washington. We need to keep helping people get access to electric cars. We need to keep building charging stations so that they can drive their electric cars across the state of Washington. There's a lot more to be done. So let me talk to you why we're here, which is this campaign. When you do big things, sometimes you make big enemies. Okay? When you do good things, sometimes you make big enemies. And we got some people who don't like the progress we're making in Washington State. They don't like the positive change of bringing solar panels to people's roofs right here. They don't like those solar panels because they threaten the coal industry, okay? They don't like electric cars because they threaten the oil and gas industry. They don't like those things. Well, we got to realize we need progress, and we're making it. So I want to thank you for being here and helping my campaign. It needs help. We've got to raise about $12 million, and Lisa's only good for half of that. I've been buying her paintings, so by the way, her painting is on our living room wall down in the governor's residence. Thank you for honoring us. And we have concerns that in the last moments of the campaign, some of these vested interests can come in and dump literally tens of millions of dollars. The Republican Governors Association this year has 3 times more money than the Democratic Governors Association, and they can come in and dump tens of millions of dollars in. So we have to be prepared for this, and your contributions tonight can really help us to do that. And I hope as the campaign rolls on, the next time we're up here, you can bring a friend, and we can even grow this team. But I want to thank you for being here. This is such a beautiful spot, and I'm touched by your friendship. So with that, I wanted to, there's a candidate tonight. Yes, Charlene LeClaire running as a Democrat in 42nd. So I am happy, if it's okay, Bob, Linda, to take a couple easy questions. I'm happy.